Hi guys and welcome back. In this video we're going to learn about custom error classes and how they can be helpful. Let's say we've got a class book that defines an init method and sets three properties: the name, the page count, and the pages read. Note that I have used type hinting here to tell me that the name should be a string and the page count should be an integer. I'm going to also add a couple other methods here just to review what we've already learned. The wrapper method that will return some information about the book in a format that will allow me to then recreate this book, so it contains all of the information about this book. And by the way, you can put a return statement in multiple lines by using brackets and like that if you want to return a longer string and you don't want your code to be too long. Something like that. If I put it in a single line, it would be too long and I would have to scroll in order to read it. Then I'm also going to make a read function that allows me to read a bunch of pages. So I will allow it to take in that argument and say self.pagesRead plus equal pages. And then I will print out a message saying you have now read that number of pages. Perfect. So this is a simple book class that allows me to create new books. For example, Python 101 can be a book called Python 101 and it may have 50 pages, and then I can do Python 101.read 35, and then I'm going to also read 50 pages. So clearly you can't do that, right? Because it only has 50 pages, you can't read 85 pages. But what happens if we press play? Well, you have now read 35 pages out of 50, and then you have now read 85 pages out of 50. Not great. So we are going to use errors instead in order to prevent that from happening. So here in the read method, just before we add anything to pages read, we're going to say if self.pagesRead plus pages is greater than self.pages, then we're going to raise an error and we're going to say too many pages read error. And in here we're going to put in the message. So we'll say something like this. Of course, this error is not built into Python because it's a bit too specific for our program logic. We could use something like value error. After all, this pages is the wrong amount given the context of our program, but it's not really specific enough. So when we are getting an error back in our console, it may be helpful to have a slightly nicer name. So what we can do is, before the class there, I usually like to define my errors at the top of the file, but it doesn't really matter. You can put them at the bottom if you want. We can say too many pages read error, and we're going to make it inherit from value error. You can inherit from any built-in exception or error if you like, in order to make it an exception class. If you don't inherit from an error or the exception class, then you won't be able to raise it because these classes have some methods inside them that you need in order to be able to raise them as errors. So you can create that, and you actually don't have to do anything inside it because it already takes in a message and all that. So you can just put pass, and this too many pages read error will essentially just be a copy of value error but with a different name. So now when we raise this error, we're going to get a nice message there that says, too many pages read error, you try to read 85 pages, but this book only has 50 pages. In addition, you get your traceback, which tells you where the problem was, which is that you tried to read 50 pages there, but you'd already read some before. When you're looking back through your code, you can very easily determine whereabouts in your code the problem happened, and you can read through it and try to find out what the problem was. Now, of course, this isn't great for users, so if you wanted to print a nicer message, you can always try to do that, and if not, accept it and print the message on its own. Just like that. That's it for creating custom classes. It's really very straightforward. You just inherit from the most relevant built-in error class, like value error, runtime error, or even type error, and you name it as you would like. That gives you a slightly nicer name and the ability to find your problems a bit more easily. Most of the time, you don't have to put anything inside the error classes, just giving them a new name is good enough. But you can do if you want. We're not going to cover how to populate The body of your custom error classes in this course, though, that's a little bit more advanced. Thank you for joining me in this one, and I'll see you in the next video.